Alright, give me 1 second to get set up. And here we go. Welcome to Game 1 of Battle Arena. This is hosted by the T-Force Network every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. An opportunity for you guys to improve and receive feedback from a higher level experienced player on what you can do better to win your solo queue or ranked games of any sort. Hosted by the T-Force Network, as I already mentioned. Check out Trinity Force Podcast at their new website, T-Force or TrinityForceNetwork.com, I believe. Also check out the proper Trinity Force Podcast, Four Words Podcast, which is for newer players. Could be really helpful for people participating in Battle Arena. Check out Ozlol if you're into Australian League of Legends, and check out what's the last one? LCS Rundown if you're interested in keeping up with the LCS without wasting an entire week watching it. Very, very beneficial. It's like SportsCenter for League of Legends. And we get into the game. And this is on T-Force 2. I don't know if anyone's watching it. I'm going to check Twitter and see if it got posted or not. Bans are pretty standard. Not entirely sure about the LeBlanc ban. But, I mean, her win rate's low, so I don't... Like, statistically speaking, bans are good for banning, like, OPs, and I don't think a champion with, like, a 43% win rate's OP. Because, like, the 5/9 rule will always exist. If you don't play something, like, if it's a 54% win rate, and they have a 5 in 9 chance to get it because you're not going to pick it, you're decreasing your odds of winning by not banning those high win rate champions. Because they have a 5 in 9 chance to pick it if you don't. 5 in 9, 54%. I mean, you can kind of do the math there. It's very marginal, but if you don't know what to ban, I would stick to higher win rates. Statistically, you're giving yourself the best chance to win. But I don't know. I like to solve problems with math. As far as picks, first pick Cog is... Cog's really squishy, but it's okay in the sense that he's a flex. You don't know if it's going to go mid or bottom. AP Cog and AD Cog are both very good right now. And they locked in Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia does really well against Kog'Maw in the mid lane, so it's a good pick. If Kog'Maw is bot, she could run into some trouble, but Cass is mostly favorable matchups mid. First picking Lucian before their AD carry is not bad either. And Aurelia. Like, Lucian and Aurelia are both pretty neutral and they do well in most lanes. Aurelia is nice too because you can build what you need to win the lane. Like, she doesn't really suffer getting like 2 or 3 Doran's items or getting an early Glacial Shroud or stuff to that regard. I feel Aurelia carries you. And he's a good Aurelia player, so he's kind of who I go to for guidance. If you do want to learn about Aurelia, though, check out the Champion Select podcast. I believe the first one's available free. It's available for patrons of the T-Force Network who donate at least $10 a month. And they'll be going over champions. If you want like an in-depth 1 to 1.5 hour discussion on how to play like a champion in every which way possible from a high level like Diamond or Challenger player, it's definitely something worth looking at. And if you go to the Trinity Force Podcast website and click the Become a Patron button, there's some more information. And just for those, while we're killing some time, it's about this difficult. You click, you go to TrinityForceNetwork.com, become a patron. It'll load. And this is the Champion Select podcast. And the last one was about Aurelia. So this is the website. That's Patreon and Champion Select. Hecarim's got blue summoners. I think he's going for blue Hecarim. Probably. I don't know. Blue Ezreal will work. Why can't blue Hecarim? If anybody can make it work, Stalker can. Trundle jungle. I've actually seen a lot of Trundle in my solo queue games recently. I think the pillar nerf Pillar buff helped him a lot. Most good Trundles already kind of went like a pillar-centric route anyway. Because if you have to ask yourself, what does Trundle have over another bruiser? And like his pillar is pretty game-breaking. So like CDR-centric pillar-heavy builds are really strong right now. And Olaf is something I've also seen in a lot of my solo queue games. Righteous Glory first on Olaf is like, there's a GIF of it on Reddit the other day for anybody who doesn't understand. It's his new ult got a buff. For 1 second, you get 50, 60, 70% movement speed or something to that regard. If you pop that in Glory at the same time, you're like an unkiteable 250 move speed machine. And he does pretty well with just getting a health item early. It has some mana, it has some health, it has move speed. Righteous Glory kind of has everything Olaf wants. Tristana recently got a buff too. I believe her E cast time scales with attack speed now. That helps. Her E kind of suffered from the same problem Caitlyn Q did in team fights, and where a lot of times you didn't want to cast it because you lost like time you could be auto-attacking and critting. But that buff kind of helps her late game viability and lets her actually use her spells late game. I'm not sure how strong she is. I honestly haven't seen her a lot. I know she's really bad lane into Ashe, and Ashe is really good, which is kind of problematic for her, but I don't know, it'll be interesting. As far as mid lane goes, KCP is the advantage in Cog. Cog took Cleanse against Hecarim and Cassio. He really won't need Cleanse unless he gets Thresh hooked. I think he would have been better served with Barrier heal this game. It's not too hard to make sure you're not facing Cassio and shields, unless she flash ults. But Cassio, the ult animation is really slow, so generally you want to like ult then flash, kind of like the Alistar trick where you use your Q before you flash and then it goes off as soon as you flash. And as a Cassio player, that makes the other player have a lot less time to react to it. But Cleanse could be useful in that situation, but generally I think Barrier heal may be better. Bot lane, Tristana Thresh against Lucian Leona. I think a Thresh plays the lane really well. Leona really has a weak pre-6, unless she cheeses 2 really hard. So I think Tristana Thresh kind of has the upper hand. I think it's really up to like Lucian to outplay the lane or Thresh to outplay the lane. Like Leona and Tristana kind of have like static roles, where Lucian and Thresh are more dynamic. So it kind of comes down to I don't know. Really, it's honestly who outplays the other one. Like if Lucian E's a Flay or something, like he's just gonna win the trade. But if Thresh hooks Lucian, he's probably gonna win the trade. So top lane early against Olaf. I think Olaf does pretty well in the matchup early. I think it's just a crazy skill matchup though. It is a lane that snowballs hard, so I'd like to see both junglers get some attention top early, especially if you see 2 champions that can really go off, and then kind of transition that focus into middle and bot lane for dragons. As far as which team is likely stronger, I would say blue team has the advantage, like mid to late, especially when Cog hits level 11. Aurelia, Trundle, Leona, and Lucian are all really good mid-game, and Kog'Maw becomes okay mid-game at level 11. Purple team also has a pretty good mid-game, though. I think this is a lot of... both the teams scale in a very similar manner, so this is very, like, win lane, win game for me. Give it 1 second. We can thank our wonderful PvP net client for the black screen. And what do we have? Alright. I like the gold border at the Hecarim. And the big note here, Thresh took Ignite and Leona took Exhaust. Exhaust is pretty important to take against Tristana because you can really bait out Tristana when she wants to jump in and get a reset and hold Exhaust. The Ignite on Thresh will help a lot in lane. it might really stink to not have it late game. Like, generally the reason you take Ignite over Exhaust is because you can't get Ignite off in a team fight. But if you're playing something like Aurelia that's pretty static, that she's probably going to end up in the back line somehow, you're always going to have an Exhaust target. So I'll agree with the Ignite pick on Thresh if he wins lane with it. If he doesn't really do anything with it, then he probably needed to take Exhaust. Broloff. Oh, this is so quiet. Nobody else is talking. And once again, this is tournament draft. Okay, Cassio started loading. I was going to say, if Cassio doesn't load in or somebody ever doesn't load in for Battle Arena, remember you can pause it at any time. And before the game starts, we'll review the rules for Battle Arena one more time. No voice communication. No BM. So, I don't know. Like, if you're winning, don't BM with your lead. Try and close the game out. Like, practice for solo queue. Don't flame your teammates, so on and so forth. And have fun. And take it seriously. Some people are actually here to get better. So if you're ruining that experience for other people, it's kind of, I don't know, do it in a normal game, not Battle Arena. Please load in, so I actually have something to talk about. Cassiopeia, please. The stream is showing you as playing Pathfinder heads up. Let me check. I believe I changed that. I think it may be on you. Let's check what stream title says. Nope, the title is correct. I think you need to refresh. Don't tase me, bro. Yeah, that's what it said previously. I did change it, so you probably stream is on a delay. But if you refresh, it should change. But I checked the Twitter, tweeted out that the correct one I set it to, and I checked the page, and it should be correct as well. All right, let's line these fuckers up. Let's go over runes and masteries. This is a good skill to have, and this is something I do in the beginning of a lot of these Battle Arena games. When you walk into lane, you can kind of tell what your opponent's, I don't know, what he has for runes. So let's look at Kog'Maw, for example. Kog'Maw has no magic resist against a Cassiopeia lane and 40 AP, which means AP Quints, magic pin reds, and probably some mix of scaling health, yellows, and either scaling MR, scaling AP, blues, or scaling CDR. But I don't agree with this. I really think you need magic resisting at the Cassiopeia lane. Seeing if anyone else has really funky runes. Not a big deal. Yeah, no, I've already taken care of it. Probably delay updating on Twitch. Yeah, Twitch sometimes just has issues too. And Cassiopeia is a standard lane. The only difference is Cassiopeia's armor yellows. This is something I wouldn't run in an AP versus AP matchup either. I think scaling, I think like in mid lane, it's pretty linear, like what you take for runes as far as your yellows go. If it's an AD matchup, you take armor. If it's an AP matchup, you take health per level. I mean, you kind of have a choice on some of the other runes, but I mean, usually you take magic pin reds and so on and so forth as well. Mid lane. Let me turn sound on so you guys don't die. Both junglers are starting camp, then buff. I don't like this route out of Trundle. You don't get to smite red and you end up a lot lower in health. It may be okay on Trundle just because how ridiculous his health regen is. But you can consider like going golems, wraiths, scuttle red, golems, wraiths red. I mean, there are a lot of routes that let you smite red and just end up on higher health. Why the hell do people take attack speed on AD carries right now? The alternatives to attack speed are AD quints or lifesteal quints, and attack speed's really good in 2v2 trade. It also helps with your auto spacing, and auto spacing is like, let's say Olaf has to hit this creep, and then he has to hit this creep when it gets low. The time in between those two CS is his auto spacing. And if you have attack speed, you may be able to get 2 auto attacks off in between the CS as opposed to 1. And it really helps you trade better and it helps you harass better. It's really, really, really important on dominant AD carries like Caitlyn, because it may be the difference between you getting 2 auto attacks off between a CS and 1. Or 0 as opposed to 1. But that's like the general reasoning behind attack speed. Aurelia's pushing in on Olaf. It looks like Olaf lost a trade really hard early, and he's also lost a lot of mana. I don't know where he lost the trade, but he needs to get a point in W and get his health back here. I'd work on tower CS. If you go into a custom game, it's usually 2 on melee, 1 on caster. And you'll kind of get used to it after a while. On somebody like Olaf with his Q and his E though, you should be able to have, I mean, you shouldn't be missing tower CS. Hecarim's coming in for a gank. That wasn't bad. Alright, so this is something you really need to think about when you're ganking top in between 330 and 430. So kind of when they're in like, what, I don't know, most junglers start a pretty linear route. They go like up like here and they go top. Or they go up like here and they go top. And they're usually there between 330, 345. And they kind of hover until 430 because they may go back and take wraiths the second time or scuttle crab. If your top laner is really low, you need to respect the fact that you can't win at 2v2. And that's a pretty big deal. But I think Hecarim could have gotten out, in all honesty. I think that was on Olaf. And watch what spells they use. What really burned him there is he wasn't paying attention, and Aurelia hadn't used E yet, and he walked in and he kind of just got like wrecked. Counter ganking. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a difference between counter ganking and being in the right place at the right time. And I think Hecarim made that very easy for him. Because Hecarim just like made a gank right next to where Trundle was. And Trundle just finished his camp and walked there. When I think of counter ganking, I think like, I don't know, strategically like warding and planning out and like so on and so forth. When that counter gank was more like a result of map awareness as opposed to anything else. It's a good buy from Hecarim though. If you buy a green ward in the jungle, I like to see sweeper earlier. You can get warded out really hard on certain champions. Especially like as Hecarim, Kog'Maw came back with 2 wards. The rest of the team's gonna be warding. If you don't have sweeper, wow. You can kind of get shut down. But you get a free gank there, so it doesn't matter. This is really rough though. Cassiopeia should beat Kog'Maw, and she's not. Some of this comes down to missing CS, and some comes down to just like laning in general. But if you know that you're against a champion that scales really hard, like make it a priority to beat them pretty hard in the early game. I don't agree with this many potions on Kog'Maw though. I think 7's a lot. 7 times 35 is 245. So he just dropped like 245 gold on potions. If he's like 200 gold shorter, his next buying gonna rail him out pretty hard here. You guys impressed with that mental math? That's how you get to diamond, mental math. If you can't add up potions, you'll never do it. Should have just gone flask. Yeah, that's probably a good call. Wow, this is an awkward pink ward. Alright, Chondo, what do you got? It's good. Hecarim got a sweeper when he backed there. Stalker's usually pretty good about listening to Battle Arena, so. I mean, if you're, like, buying greens, it doesn't really make sense to have Warding Totem, too. Get a sweeper, smite raptors. Just control vision. Alright, so Cassie and Cog are even on CS. She just kind of needs to think about her like wave control here. I don't know. Early about Sheen. That's a little cocky, but it's not a huge deal. And Thresh is roaming. Interest is frozen. If you want to go for a really aggressive play, if you're playing against Tristana on somebody who can interrupt to jump, you want to lance in and then just orb walk behind them a little bit. Like you just click behind them, like, I don't know, here. And you can usually, I don't know. Until Tristanas get better, you can interrupt, like, jumps somewhat consistently. Oh. But I don't know. Like I've played Blitzcrank into Tristana a lot, and like the counter to Tristana is walking up and you don't power fist her right away. You orb walk behind her and like auto attack her once, and you try and E her out of rocket jump. You don't just like E her straight up. Olaf's in a rough spot because he didn't get this in the tower. If Aurelia freezes in front of her tower here, he's pretty fucked. He can either go for like a TP play here to punish her for like the inevitable freezing, or he can try and get it in the tower with axes and eat some harass. But he really doesn't want to give her lane control. Like this is about to be really bad. Ooh. I don't think Aurelia froze the wave as well as she could have, but. I think Silent should be buying wards too, and or getting sweeper. This seems kind of like, I don't know, unless you're getting really good ganks off, and he's gotten a couple okay ones off. If you don't have sweeper or wards, it's kind of hard to impact the map early as a jungle. You're kind of just relying on them to be kind of stupid and give you free ganks. That was really good, and that's what I was talking about earlier. Like, this matchup comes down to if Thresh or Lucian can outplay somebody, and Thresh flayed Leona. Zenith played there. And, like, if he hadn't have done that, Squirtle would have died. What runes is Hecarim running? I didn't check early. Someone can check during the game, but... It's just, I mean, it comes down to can Lucian use his E to dodge skills and like keep damage up, or does Thresh play like the reactive matchup against Leona well? And Thresh played the reactive matchup against Leona well there. And this is what I talked about. Aurelia froze Olaf off that wave for so long that he just, I don't know, like the CS was probably like 45 to 60. It wasn't too bad. She froze and slow pushed out. It's 85 to 50 now. And Olaf could have prevented that by just using his Qs and getting it into tower and eating her ass. Or, I don't know. You don't ever, like if you're losing lane, you can't let them freeze in front of tower. Especially if they've TP up, because then you're absolutely like fucked. Sometimes freezing isn't good if they don't have TP, because you can roam and they can't counter. But if they're freezing on you and they have TP, like you walk all the way down to make a play and they're just like, fuck you, I froze your lane and now I'm gonna TP down. Like your roam means nothing. Olaf is in a rough spot though. Yeah. This is good that she's clicking behind her. I don't really know why Olaf ulted there. Idiots, 1 crit, 2 HP. I think that's a pretty standard page. I don't know about 9 CDR blues. I think most people just run 5%. Unless you're playing like Rengar or Ribbon. But I think he's got the general idea with this rune page. Yeah, that was a pretty random ult. It's a good gank by Stalker though. I really didn't have flash, so that was pretty free. So whoever warded this here, I didn't see if it was Cassiopeia or the jungle. If you're playing, I'll assume this is Cassiopeia just like for the sake of teaching a lesson. If you don't have priority mid, you don't want to ward these bushes because you can't fight for it. And like a good mid laner will hit tab when you come back to lane and they'll say, oh, Cassiopeia is a pink ward. And then they'll see you walk here and they'll be like, oh, Cassiopeia doesn't have a pink ward, so it has to be here. And then they'll just clear it because they have priority and you can't do anything about it. Kind of rough. I like 6 flat and 3 scaling CDR blues. I think having the 6 flat for 5% is the most important thing if you're going for that kind of page. Six flat, 3 scaling will give you 10% late game, so it's not a bad page, but it's preference. Hecarim's got a pretty good build though. The Mercs are pretty smart by here. They have a lot of crack control on their team. And AP Cog just generally does a lot of damage. Wow. Wow. I think Cassiopeia probably should have just killed him with the Twin Fang like way earlier there. I'm not really sure what that is or was. Oh, there's so much going on. As Cassiopeia, I would be a little careful. It really has Sheen and E. So, I don't know, I may have just let my teammates get the kill there. I don't think she's totally aware of whether Aurelia had flashed it not there, and she may have been able to burst her. I don't like this Cassia build a lot. I think the standard build right here is, or I think like the general Cassiopeia build is just tier into Abyssal. I kind of see that every game. So this is weird for me. I think Cog's build's good. Tristan and Lucian both went standard. Aurelia and Thresh are pretty standard. I think Chandler really needs to get more wards or a sweeper and or probably both. This is, I don't know, a mistake I see to a degree, especially in like lower elo jungling, and it's, you just keep buying your things over and over again and you never like have any map control. I don't think, but I would still go Rylai's instead of Lucian. Yeah, I mean, both tops are AD, so I can see that as far as Abyssal goes, but I think Bao's probably right. Rylai's. Just tier into Sork's Ludens is a really weird build as well. If you think about how much tier cost and how much Sork's and Ludens cost, you're not finishing an item until like 50-200 gold, and that just assuming you're buying wards and pots too, and you're kind of giving up a lot of lane dominance on Cassio at that point. I don't know, sitting on components is nice, but when you consider like the cost of components and boots, and like the fact that you really want to shut Cog down before he hits level 11, I don't know, the tier Sorks is kind of weird to me. Oh, what else do we have? Alright, so when you're playing someone like Cassio, I would try and think about like what you're gonna do after the tower there. And I don't think standing on top of each other and like eating Cassio ult on two people, or eating the damage from Cassio on two people and like making yourself an easy target to QE was good. Leona also, like, I saw bot lane died here. I'm not entirely sure what happens, but Leona still has a lot of CC in the mid game, so I might just try and roam or do something else. If someone like Tristana, like more late game centric champ, gets the lead on Lucian, it's really hard for Lucian to come back. Like, this 2v2 is really hard for you to win as Leona. Olaf has glory and he's caught up in CS some. He needs to make a decisive play with the wave here, though. I think last hitting like normally and waiting for Ellie to come back isn't good here. I think either I don't know. I would just like shove the wave out as fast as I could when Aurelia is not there, and then try and do something else on the map. Because I don't think farming with axes is a good game plan. I mean, like, the rough thing here is it's 19 minutes. I haven't seen either top lane look to teleport bot. Like, even Aurelia, this has kind of been available for a while. Aurelia giving him the wave there, though. I think she really needs to work on her wave control and think about what she's doing. Maybe just face tank a wave to freeze it out or something. I don't know, like, she had like a 40 or 50 CS lead and it's not really growing, which is kind of concerning. This isn't good. What the hell? Why didn't Tsunami... I don't know, I think he figured she DC'd and tried not to BM her. Alright, so once again, Leona, your Lucian lost to Tristana. You're not coming back in that lane. Not good. Wow. Double TP. Nope, Trundle cancel. I mean, Olaf canceled. So as Olaf, once again, I think he needs to be decisive with the wave. I think he can either push hard or freeze. But last hitting probably isn't the best option. But he's looking to push, so I think he's making the correct play here. I think Kog'Maw should have already upgraded his trinket at this point. And Tristana should probably have scrying as well, but I don't think that's a huge deal. And Olaf and Aurelia could both have upgraded trinkets as well. I don't like what Kog'Maw did here in mid for a while, in that he came back with like a couple of wards early, and then he just stopped warding without flash. If you're playing a mid laner without any escape, like when you lose flash, you have to buy wards and you back. There's not really any ifs, ands, and buts about it. Unless you think you can play super conservatively and freeze on your tower. But if you don't ward too, like, it's not just that you can get ganked. Like, let's say you're playing conservatively on your tower and you don't ward. If your jungler comes to gank for your lane and you don't have wards, like, he might get counter ganked because of it, and that could be bad as well. Like, wards not only prevent ganks, but wards kind of help with counter ganks as well. So it's important to think about. Cog did all of that with that vision. I think he could have warded the bush and done what he needed to do there. It's a good habit to get into, especially if you're a support player, or like, I don't know, a Sightstone player if you play more supportive jungles. Or, I mean, just in general, if you have a ward, sometimes it's, just Just useful to get it in team fights. Or useful to get used to dropping it in bushes in team fights. Oh. Why cleanse against Cass? I don't know. I talked about that earlier in the game. I think that whatchamacallit. Oh gosh, I can't even talk tonight. I think heal or Barry would have been better. I don't think red team has a lot of CC unless he gets hit with Thresh Hook. Or he eats like a Cassiopeia ult because he's facing it, but I don't know. I think you're right in questioning that. I think heal or barrier would have been better. And both junglers have upgraded Trinket, that's good. And Silence getting wards. That's also good. He's got CDR and Black Cleaver on Trundle, so... Wow. I don't know how the Lantern Pillar interaction works. I've never seen that. I wonder if he couldn't click it because of Pillar. It's good by red team there. They didn't fight because Tristana was bottom. It's always important to like make sure, I don't know, just do a body check. Like count, like I have 3 people here, they have 4 people here, I need to not fight. I see that happen a lot in low elo games where somebody just picks like a 3v4. And it's like, oh, your teammate was bottom. And it's, oh, I didn't look or I didn't check, I just wanted to fight. And that's not good. This is good though. Olaf's catching up on farm, and Aurelia hasn't really done a ton with their lead. Red team here needs to push their lead as hard as they can before Kog'Maw hits 16. Kog'Maw will kind of come back when he hits level 16 and he finishes his next item. Stalker's doing a really good job with his wards here this game though. And Tristana's snowballing pretty hard. I don't like Flash and Hecarim, I think Ghost or TP is better. I normally don't like Flash on Hecarim. I think it's okay this game because of Trundle Pillar. But you can also ult Trundle Pillar, so I don't know. I can see the reasoning. It's usually something I ask myself is why they did it. But I think you're correct in saying that Ghost is better. So as Olaf here, this is something I'll talk about, and this is something I think is pretty important if you want to climb Elo. So like, I don't know, there are 3 scenarios in League of Legends. Either you do well, you do poorly, or you do okay. You're going to have a lot of games where you play poorly, and you don't necessarily have to lose all those games. What you need to recognize is whether your team is doing poorly or not. So as Olaf, I have Cassiopeia that did pretty well. And I fed us, like, I really fed Tristana. Like, I just need to be the tank and help my team win some fights. I'm 0-3-1, but I still have items to be useful. And I hope he recognizes that and serves his role as a tank in these fights. This is an example of a game where he did really poorly in, but he can still serve his role and easily help his team win. What do you think about Roa? First thing on Cass. I think Baba correctly assessed Rylai's would be better in this game. I think Rylai's is good because neither top or AP, and Rylai's is really good with double AP or against double AP. Rylai's is also good against melee champions because you can kite them out pretty easily. But I would say if there are AP tops or some stuff you can't kite, the most common Cassiopeia build is Tier into Abyssal. So Tier Abyssal, Tier Allies are probably the 2 builds you want to look at. Just think about how much AP is in the game and like how much kiting you need to do. Alright, that's a good time to have clones. Whoa. Does he have mana? Ow, snipe. Alright, so let's talk about like cost-benefit analysis here of Kog'Maw. So Cassiopeia already flashed. So he got the flash. If he had turned around, he would have gotten a whole wave of farm, and he would have been up flash. By taking that trade, he lost probably like 200 gold worth of minions, his flash, and he traded kills. Like, that was, as far as like, I don't know, weighing like what he gained from that and what he lost from that and like gave up for that, that was not a good play to make. It's good. I think everybody has the correct trinkets besides Aurelia. I'd like to see her upgrade. I think the only reason not to is if she was like sitting on randoins or a really important item. But I think, okay, she had enough for it. Nice. Everybody's got trinkets. Tristana just hit a pretty big power spike though. She went from Vamp Scepter to Bloodthirster. Her team should really be focusing like a Dragon or Tower. Kog'Maw's 15, so this is probably the weakest he's going to be for the rest of the game. When Kog'Maw hits level 16, he'll like shortly get Seraphs as well, and he'll kind of just keep scaling. This is good. This is, like I said, just serve your purpose for the team. Hecarim's purpose was to engage, Olaf's was to be tanky. Tristana's really fed, so in the end it all works out. I don't know how much I like that Tristana skin. Wow. It's just really good. I'll really commend this Olaf. I think hard games are rough, but recognizing what you need to build when you're behind is important. I really respect that he went full tank and he didn't get Black Cleaver, Ghost Blade, Blade of the Ruined King, or Hydra. Some of the like other situational items in Olaf. Smart buys. I think I would have liked to see Frozen Heart here a little more than random ones, but I think random ones is good too. I think Olaf's skill is really hard with the CDR, and he already had some health and magic resist to deal with the AP, so Heart may have just been better. And the build path for Heart is pretty good as well. But on the other end, blue team already has Heart. I would have liked to see randoms out of Trundle or Aurelia. This is kind of awkward. Stalker and Olaf. I think Stalker needs to get tanky pretty fast though. I think watching that fight is pretty apparent to me that he's a little squishier than he could or should be. He did get the damage down though, and he did give his team a good engage. So is Olaf here? He has TP. Wow. I don't know if I would have done that. Alright, so map awareness. I mean, he could have baited that out a lot harder. And pick up your axes as Olaf. It reduces the cooldown and it will help you chain them in a situation like that. But really, check the map. I mean, you saw Hecarim coming up, and you had wards, so you know they weren't going to counter gank immediately. That probably should have just been a kill. And for Hecarim and Olaf, like I just said, look at the map. You kind of had vision of them both coming up. I really don't see any reason to die there. Wow, pillar's so broken. Look, it's gonna be up again. That pillar just dropped. There's another pillar. Balanced champion. So that's what I was talking about in the loading screen. I think that's why I'm seeing more priority on Trundle recently, is because he can do that. And I think that's really hard to deal with sometimes. This is a goodbye by Tristana. She didn't have enough to finish last burst, so she got Wrath. So Cog is still 15. How close is he to 16? He's getting there. Says Kog'Maw, you know a fight is imminent here. I would really put as much priority as I could on hitting 16. Maybe take these wraiths. Or take wraiths and then mid lane wave. Sometimes if you're playing an AP mage, like your level 16 is really important. Like 16 on Lux, or 16 on Xerath, or 16 on Cog. It's if at all possible, you see yourself 15 and a half and there's some camps up before a team fight or like a wave you can take, just, I don't know, farm hard and say like don't fight for a second for your team or something. If they're fighting, like stop the camp. Like you getting 16 is isn't the most important thing in the world, but it helps quite a bit. So take it when you can. As a decent buy by Tristana to get a Megatron, I think she's going GA, which isn't the worst. Olaf. So does he still have TP? He does. That's good. Alright, so Dragon's up. I'd like to see TP by Olaf. He's got a good ward. No, he doesn't. So it's good. Red team pinged. Olaf should be coming over. And will he come? No, he's walking down. That's not a bad option either. He didn't have like a crazy ward to flank too. So he's making a good play. And this is the advantage of walking down over TP, because Aurelia is going to be looking to TP here. Hopefully looking to TP. I think she's looking for a ward. But sometimes you need TP to fight one before you can TP. And if you have a ward, you can use it immediately. Rafa here, click the tower. I mean, if you walk down, you can fight immediately. I'm getting stumbled on my words. Tristana, did she ult? No, really, dude. And I'll make a point. There's Tristana. One, if you're really fed, BT third can be pretty good because you'll be so fed they will have armor in time. In this game, she wasn't that far ahead, and Trundle and Aurelia actually at heart finished pretty early. The reason I like BT, even though they had this much armor, as opposed to Last Whisper for a third item, is when you're playing a champion, I don't know, like if you're playing AP Cog or Lux or Xerath, there's someone who's going to try and poke you off tower with ultimates or spells or whatever. BT can be really good because BT, especially if you've control of like wraiths and you can lifesteal on wraiths, it really helps you deal with the poke. BT on an AD carry is a pretty good counter to poke. Because pre-BT as Tristana, if you get hit with like Coggle and Cog E, you are at like half health entering the fight and you can't do anything. And if that happens with Last Whisper, even if you have item advantage, like you're half health, it kind of doesn't matter. Especially against Aurelia, because she can instantly do like 30% of your health with the Sheen proc and an E. Alright, so Leona, it's don't ward alone and just be more careful, I guess. I don't know. I think that may not have been like as avoidable as I think it was. Respect Trundle Pillar to a degree when you dive. Like Trundle Pillar, the time on it is 6 seconds. The cooldown 6.6. So if you don't see it up, just assume it's off cooldown. Like if you see a Trundle with the CDR centric build and he's late enough in the game to have points into his E, just assume Pillar is always up. Because it is always up. Unless it's on the ground. If it's on the ground, it's not up. If it's not on the ground, it's off cooldown. I like that Leonie's getting Locket here though, it's pretty helpful. I believe Hecarim has a little magic damage and... Are Tristana's spells still magic post rework? Yes, they have a little bit of magic damage. Tristana's spells, a little bit of Hecarim, Cassiopeia. I believe Thresh does a little magic. I don't think... yeah. I don't think Olaf does any magic damage though. I believe it's physical true, yeah. So Olaf got a Warmogs. I would have liked to see Frozen Heart or Thornmail. I think another health item into AP Cog earlier. Lucian is kinda I think he probably should have just armor stacked this game. If anybody has questions or, I don't know, anything they want to talk about in chat during some of these dull moments in games, like, don't be afraid to ask. I'm trying to mention as much as I see right now, but I can't get to everything. If there's anything you're especially wondering, I can probably answer it. It is good. Hecarim recognized that he's squishy and he bought randoms. I think I may have liked to see Frozen Heart on Hecarim a little bit more. I think Hecarim scales really hard with CDR, and it's strange to me he has a build with only 10%. But it's not a huge deal. Oh, that's a good Leona ult. It's done. Squirtle, you can do it. Alright, so this is a pretty big mistake right here that Trundle made. You want to think about like the most important thing you need to do in a fight. And we'll go back since we're probably gonna have a second. Or let's go back to right before Trundle dies. Trundle goes in. So on and so forth. He's gonna pillar to try and save himself instead of pillaring to CC Tristana for his carries. And now nobody can like get to Tristana or deal with her. If he would have pillared Tristana and just ate the damage from Trundle, his team probably would have won the fight. So like recognize the carry target's important. Like pillaring a tank off of yourself is not the biggest deal in the world. It's the same thing. I don't know, like you're playing Leona and there's an Olaf running at you and there's a Hecarim running at your AD carry and the Olaf's probably going to kill you. Like you still want to CC the Hecarim off your AD carry. Because like the team with the AD carry, the mid laner that lives longest in a team fight is probably going to be the team that wins. Like a tank, killing a tank is kind of whatever. Like 30 seconds into a team fight. I don't like the Blade of the Ruin King buy that's coming out of Trundle. Blade doesn't scale that hard until late game. I think like Trinity for the mobility, or another tank item like Thornmail. No, like, he has 2 armor items. He's at 3600 health, 240 armor. Tristana has 17 kills though. Like, this needs to be a Thornmail coming out of Trundle. I don't really see any other buy he should be making. Wow. So, like, if you see Tristana jump onto your AD carry, I wouldn't be a bystander there. You kind of need to pull the trigger. Like, that's a really, really arrogant move for her to make. And Olaf and Leona, like, I guess Leona is dead. But not Olaf. Trundle or Leona. Trundle may have, like, been able to pillar her. This isn't. Alright, so this is a pretty big mistake on Lucian's part. You're coming into this fight, you have no wards. What champions do they have? They have Cassiopeia and they have Tristana. So they have a ton of burst and resets. Either ward this bush first thing when you walk up to it as to like check it. You're probably still going to die, but whatever. Scrying Orb. Lucian had Scrying Orb that entire time and he just walked up to like blue buff bush. Probably, I don't know. That's one of the big reasons you buy a Scrying Orb. One is to keep vision in team fights, and the other one is to, like, I don't know, not face check bushes. So blue team has a chance here. They have a 5-minute window. Red team just got Baron. But red team can't really get anything from this dragon. And Tristana's GA is down. So they need to recognize that their best chance to win here is before Tristana's GA comes back up. Because when her GA comes back up and Cassiopeia hits 5-6 items or whatever, they're pretty screwed. I also don't like the Rallies in Cog a lot. It lets you chain ults to a degree, but I think Leandri's would have been more effective against this many health stacking targets. I haven't seen Rallies Cog in a while. It's kind of hard to fit into his build now with Luden's Echo and Tyr. Because you have Luden's Tyr, Void, and usually Death Cap. Sometimes you don't get Death Cap on him because you're going like a Magic Pen build, but I don't know. There's not really room for Rallies in this build most of the time. Alright, so as Leona, the win condition I talked about a second ago, that Tristana needs to die to win this game before her GA comes back up. If Leona had ult right there, this would be game. Like, good game, 100% GG. But she didn't use it for whatever reason. And Olaf too, like that was a really close fight. I probably would have TP'd in. I'm not exactly sure what you were doing. He's also getting Mob Mortalis instead of another armor item. Both these teams are kind of AD centric. League is an incredibly complex game. A lot of times you just want to stack armor. But Leona, like, recognize what priority is and what priority isn't on your ult. You kind of ulted, like, at a weird time there and you didn't get anything. You should be, I don't know, your ult should be on Cassiopeia or Tristana. Possibly if they dive your backline in a very organized way. But, like, I don't know, unless you're getting, like, 3 tanks or, like, a carry, it's probably not a good Leona ult at this point in the game. I really don't like that red team didn't buy elixirs there as well. They got Baron and that should have been their attempt for a last push. I think Squirtle's the only one getting elixirs. And I think he doesn't have one right now, actually. No, he doesn't. He's got 23,000 gold and he's sitting on 4,500. That's kind of... I guess he hasn't been back in a while. But just, I don't know, remember to get elixirs. Especially if you're trying to win the game or you're in a point where you're trying to close it out. Cassia doesn't have elixir either. It's kind of, yeah. And you can let it sit in your bag for when you think you need it, especially if you're at 5 items like Cass. But like, imagine that fight if Hecarim had iron and Olaf had iron and Tristana had ruin and Thresh had iron. It probably would have gone more better. And they have the gold to do that. It's good. I'd like to see Leona ult. No, Leona's not there. So once again, do a body check, count, and make sure your teammates are actually there before you do that. They kind of chunked out and in a bad spot. Whoa, Lucian. Wow, he isn't dying. So they got Squirtle, GA, and killed him. Wow. So really make a priority. Like, this is an issue I have to deal with a lot of times in normal games. You need to be killing their backline and protecting your backline. They didn't kill their backline in Lucian, and they didn't protect their backline interest, so they lost the fight. Like, you really need to be doing something effective in these team fights if at all possible. And Hecarim, once again, just doesn't have a lot of CDR in his build. I really would have liked to see Spirit Visage instead of Banshees. Blue team might come back, though. Hey, never give up. GG team, no peel. Yeah, dude, that's what I do. I insta-lock Vayne, I tumble into 3 people, and then I say GG team. No peel, noobs. Can't Vayne spot. Get out of my game. Oh, I'm really upset Olaf on his... I guess he's 2 armor items. That's not bad. I don't like the Cogs build without Leandries, though. It's kind of gross. I really like Leandries and AP Cog. It's the only reasons Luden's on Cog is so good. You get Luden's, and Luden's proc spreads Leandries, and it just does a lot of damage. Justana has 4,900 gold. Alright, she bought Ruin at least. She should be selling GA for another item, though. And, like, possibly, like, I'd like to see her have double PD, either defensive item or double PD. Probably not Zephyr. Double PD defensive item, or Boots PD defensive item. Like Banshees or something like that. I don't know. Like, she has so much money, she can just sell GA, and then, like, when GA is back up in 5 minutes, she can buy it again. She's not gonna have a defensive item. This is gonna be a crazy fight. Neither team could kill the backline. Now the backlines are gonna fight. That's really good by Trundle staying back and, like, helping his backline live. Red team sent Aurelia on a suicide mission. She distracted 3 people. Blue team sent Hecarim and Olaf on suicide missions. So, like, the thing I talked about, you need to peel for your carries or kill your backline. Well, blue team had 1 person, red team had 2, and it worked out better. Carries win games. I mean, tanks and supports win games too, but it's their interaction with the carries more so than anything else. I really would like to see Thornmail or something else out of Trundle, and I'd like to see elixirs out of everybody. Lucian doesn't have Ruin. Trundle. Alright, Trundle bought Iron. Carries get carried. Yeah, it's why they're called carries. You have to carry them and keep them alive. Just once again, both AD carries have enough money. They could probably sell their GA. I don't know why they're both sitting on it. It's really strange to me. I think Tristan could even get Randuin's. It's not like AP Cog is going to hit her, and Randuin's would be pretty good against Aurelia Trundle Lucian. I don't see Randuin's a lot in AD carry, but I get it a decent amount myself. I think it's an okay buy in some games. In this game, like, all the damage is auto attack besides AP Cog. But Banshees would be pretty good too. Or QSS for Leona ult, and she could get Mercurial. And just like sitting on dead GA is really bothering me. As Lucian here, he needs to be really like cognizant of his GA, and he needs to communicate with his team that his GA is not up for 2.5 minutes if he's going to sit on it. It could be really problematic though, because I think Baron is spawning soon. Trying to finish Blade. Elixir is Wrath, not Rune. Alright, sorry, Wrath. Rune is the one that gives you AD and does damage to towers. I think I called it the wrong thing. I don't really think I've ever seen anybody buy Rune, so it's... I don't know. Olaf's got iron. One big Olaf. So Cass had 400 extra gold here probably, and she didn't get Elixir. Not good. I don't really know why Lucian flashed there. They both really need to have wards in these fights too. And Thresh suicided by himself. This is such an awkward fight, holy crap. You hit your coggle. Wow. I will never be able to understand team fights in gold and silver. This is... wow. So I think people weren't very organized. I think Thresh died with that flash and he kind of walked in and suicided. Cass is zoniest against an AP Cog, which is really, really bad because he can just coggle at you afterwards. Olaf kind of put himself in no man's land. Like, he dived to where he could take damage, and then he walked away, but he's still taking damage, and he wasn't really actually diving a back line. Tristana was orb walking, and she didn't have GA up because it was popped in the previous fight. Oh, no, she had GA. I don't... let's see. I think Leona played the fight okay. I think Lucian flashed really randomly. I wasn't a big fan of that. Just make a point to ward. I think the vision in that team fight was really bad. Neither team ever, like, neither support ever warded blue buff. Nobody warded any of this. Like, I'm sure if I went back and did F1, F2 to watch each team fight's, like, vision in there, you guys were probably fighting in Fog of War the entire time. And neither AD carry used Scrying Orb from what I could see. I think there may have been one, but it wasn't the best. Alright, let's see what we have for advanced details. So I'm probably going to get on Cog's ass here. I don't think he warded a lot. So he used his warding trinket. So Aurelia never bought a pink. That kind of sucks. Trundle only bought 2 pinks, and Leona only bought 3. That's really, really bad for a support. I don't know. That's pretty rough. The ward kills are okay. Double-digit ward kills is kind of what you should expect to see in such a long game. But, I'm gonna make a point to buy more vision wards, make a point to buy more stealth wards early game. Cog bought 2 on like first or second back, and then he stopped buying them, and Lucian and I guess Leona is Sightstone, but don't rely on your trinket to be like your only source of wards. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. Olaf and Triss never bought a pink ward. That's not good. And Hecarim actually did a really good job with warding there. I think that a lot of that is just being disorganized in team fights. Statistics, damage none. Tristana did a lot. AP Cog did a lot too. It was a good game. I think I'm gonna go over 1 or 2 things each person can do better for the next game. I'm gonna try and start doing this in BA games so you guys actually have something to work on, like for the next week between battle arenas or so on and so forth. So, Kog'Maw, make a point to ward more. Early game, I would look up some AP Cog builds too. I really don't think Rylai's is what people are building a lot. But like you had one back that was really good. Like you had 2 greens and a pink and then you just stopped. I don't think that was the best. Lucian, I didn't watch a lot. Remember to use Scrying Orb. I would say that's like the biggest thing I saw. And think about like how you have to use your flash reactively in a team fight. Try and like think about the scenarios that could play out in the team fight before the team fight happens, so you know when you need to use your flash and you don't like panic flash as hard. Aurelia, I don't know, practice or look up some videos on lane control. You had a really big CS lead in Olaf and you didn't do anything with the lane, and you didn't roam either, and you just like kind of lost your lead randomly. Trundle, don't get Blade, last item, when the other team's 80 carry is 17 kills by Thornmail. Also work on vision control early. I don't think you upgraded Sweeper for a long time or bought green wards early game at all, really. Leona, when you're losing lane, you're playing Leona, like either roam or play passively. Don't like funnel them kills. And, practice warding in team fights. That goes for Leona and Thresh. Cassiopeia, ward more in the early game. And think about like when you need to use your Zonias in a team fight. It comes down to the same thing about Lucian, like reactive Zonias. I mean, like you use Zonias in that last team fight and you got Coggled. That's not good, and that's probably something you would want to think about before the team fight. And buy elixirs. He didn't buy elixir of sorcery for like the 2 major fights in the game, which is pretty bad. Hecarim, you may have needed to get tanky earlier. I'm not sure. And some of the ults seemed a little forced. I think he did a really good job with vision control in the early game, though. I was actually pretty impressed. I think a lot of the lead that your team got was through your warding. Thresh. Practice warding in team fights and try and have a purpose in a team fight. Like in that last team fight you guys lost, you just chased and like got solo killed on Thresh without flashing. That's probably not good. Olaf, commit during team fights and get a 3rd armor item. Like just buy Thornmail. I don't think Mom Mortalis did anything for you there. And Tristana, like if you have 5k gold, like fucking sell your GA, dude. Alright.